Alrighty, let's start today off with GJ. Very popular pair. Now, mind you, today is a Tuesday, so quite regular movements in volume, but we have no high impact news. So the pairs might move just a bit slower than usual. Alright, you might not be as excited when the price moves because there's nothing to accelerate that movement. But still, let's try to check, okay? GJ, the reason why some of you were able to get a sell from the top down to the bottom over here was because there was a daily setup that I told you about since last week or 2 weeks ago, since the price has not been in this area since 2016. All right, and I gave you a key level of the H4, so you were able to get it down. Okay, but now since it dropped down, it created new zones. All right, and I'm going to press a buy over here since we have a sell, broke, right? It broke, or actually it broke over here. We have a buy, another engulfing buy. So we have an ABC or my HLZ over here, which would be a very, very good price to potentially find a buy. Then we're marking the tippy top of the engulfing sum because the price has not reached here since forever, right? Since 7 years ago. So if this is if I mark this as my potential sell zone, this will be the limit of where H4 cannot break. Okay, H4 cannot break because if it does, then potentially it might get higher. Now, just to give you any trades, whether it's a buy up from here or a sell down to here, I marked this engulfing buy. Right, which is also very good for scalpers if you want to scalp from here, either up or down, depending on where H4 might go. Okay, but if you are a low risk trader and you do not want to risk your money in this black zone over here, then wait for a buy here and or a sell over here. All right, but you can monitor where H4 might go from here because this is an engulfing buy. So if H4 in 15 minutes, if H4 closes within this zone, then potentially, if we drop down into M15, let's just watch now. M15 has an engulfing buy over here. It has a buy that failed over here, but not really any setups in the key level, right? Not really anything. So if we drop down even lower, in M5, you can see the M5 created an engulfing sell meets an engulfing sell. So if the price continues to respect, although H4 might close within the zone, then the next H4 might be the movement of the sell down if and only if M5 continues to respect this or these engulfing cells. Because if it does, then it might break this H4 or it might break the next H4 coming, right? Might break this zone. But if they do decide to disrespect that M5 zone, either it can create new setups for a sell to sell down into this buy zone, or if it creates a buy setup, then you may press a buy up to this zone. But again, from zone to zone, GJ moves quite a lot. So don't be greedy, because if you do not have the capacity to hold for such high pips, then take it slowly by slowly, right? Because from this key level to up here, it is already 110 pips. And from this whole swing that I am looking for a definite buy over here and a potential sell over here is 210 pips. So it's quite a lot. If you cannot hold for more than 100 pips or even up to 100 pips, then just break it down 20, 40, 60 or 10, 20, 30, depending on what you're comfortable first. Okay, don't be greedy. That is one of the tips and tricks in trading. All right, so what can GJ do? Again, we're going to look at this H4. It's going to close in 13 minutes. So if it closes within this zone, then you switch down to M15 and M5 to look for a potential buy setup. But I already saw that M5 created an engulfing sell meets an engulfing sell. So although this H4 might close within, if M5 continues to respect that, then if you want to risk some of your capital, because H4 closing within, it's going against that smaller time frame. but that smaller time frame can be the start of the movement for the next H4 to sell down. Okay, so if I were to rate it as a risk, it's quite risky to risk your capital here. But if you have a higher risk appetite and you think it's worth this 100 pips or 80 from this key level to this, close to 100 pips, if you can hold it, if you are willing to risk for this potential gain of 100 pips, then go for it. But if not, and especially if you have a small account of $10, $15, $20, do not risk any amount over here, because if it goes wrong, GJ moves quite fast and you will be stuck in a trade, especially if you do not want to cut the trade and admit that you lost. All right, so again, wait for H4 to close and see where it goes, because M5 already created a small time frame setup, but we have to wait for this H4 to decide. If this H4 decides, again, respect. If you want to enter a sell, quite risky, but if it creates a buy setup, then you can try that also. Then if H4 decides to break this zone, either way, we wait for it to retrace back into this key level for a sell down. For low risk traders like me and conservative traders like others, especially for small account traders, you can do that, or wait for it to drop all the way into our buy zone. If H4 respects this, then potentially we can find a buy back up. But if it breaks down below, it might go even lower, vice versa, right? If this H4 in 10 minutes closes within this zone and it breaks our sell setups on M5 and even, let's say, in M15 if it does create any sell setups. But if it breaks those, then potentially it might want to come up into our sell zone over here. Then we can monitor if H4 will respect this, because if it does, we can catch a sell. But if it disrespects it, meaning breaking the zone, then potentially it might want to test a higher area. All right, so that's for GJ. Again, go down to M5 and M15 to look for your entries. All right, next, UJ. Okay, UJ, same thing, right? But there's no zones for us to monitor for any scalping, either up or down to our buy-sell zones, because there's nothing yet. We have to wait for this H4 to close first in 10 minutes. Then this will be our potential sell if it closes below. But other than that, there's nothing much. But UJ is a worth it pair to monitor because it also moves a lot, and despite it moving a lot, it's not as volatile as GJ. So although I have a love-hate relationship with GJ, UJ is a very, very good pair to trade for big movements. All right. So my sell zone, an engulfing buy that failed, in the process of failing, create a sell, and we have another sell. So we have a complete setup over here. Then for the buy zone, a sell that broke. It broke this candle. So an engulfing buy meets an engulfing buy. So another complete setup. This is why UJ will be a very worth it risk to enter either a potential sell over here or a potential buy over here, because we have a complete setup on both, a buy and a sell. If it continues to respect these buys and sell, the buy and sell zones, then it will just go in a sideway until one of the zones break, right? Because we have confirmed sellers over here and confirmed buyers over here. So what do? We wait for H4 to either come into our buy zone or sell zone. If it respects either of the zones, then we can catch a buy from here and a sell from here, respectively. But if it breaks down below from a buy zone or above our sell zone, then potentially it might go even lower or even higher, respectively. All right? Once you have entered the trade, there is no way in telling that it's 100% going to go in your direction. And I think that's one of the reasons why newbies still fail, right? Because you think that our setups and these strategies, once you enter, it will give you profit immediately. But no, nothing is 100%. So control your losses and manage your emotions. Enter only when you are calm and confident, and you enter only the amount that you are willing to lose in that particular setup. All right? So once you have entered, count 40 pips from your entry, and that will be your SL. Last but not least, EA, also one of my favorite big movement pairs, and it's perfect because it's in our zone right now. So my buy zone starts from here, an engulfing sell that failed. Price even came back to tap the key level before flying, but then came in to close within and created this engulfing buy. Now this buy zone was very strong because it kept the price above this zone 200. Why is it lagging? Around more than 600 pips. All right. So it kept the price above this zone for 600 pips and for quite a few days, probably weeks also. So it's quite a strong zone for the sideways. So now, since H4 is in, what do? We go into M15 and we try to see. On M15, we don't really see anything yet because the price is still trying to come down and create something in the zone. So what do? We go into a lower time frame, M5, to see if anything happened in the wicks. So also nothing, but we do have a buy. We have another buy that it's trying to play around, but still no setups yet. So monitor anything that might happen in the zone over here, all right, in the key levels in M15 and M5. And if you find any buy setups, then you may enter. All right, because if it respects H4 closing in 6 minutes, then potentially we can catch a buy back up. And from this zone to this zone, key level to key level is how I like to trade, is close to 150 pips. All right, but again, although I like to trade from key level to key level, when I started out, I had to take breaks. I knew that my key level was more than 100 pips, but with the capacity that I had as a newbie, I was not able to hold 100 pips. So break it down, right? So always I would set my first TP at 20 pips. That will be the benchmark for me to break even all of my trades and let it run. Either it hits my break even, no losses, or it hits my TP. Okay? Hits my other TP. So that's how you should do it. All right? Trade only to your mental capacity and slowly grow from that. Okay, so that's it from me today. I'm going to get back to replying to your messages. I still have quite a few mappings. Well done to the ones who are sending me, by the way. I will go through it and be very thorough so we can all